For the past 6 months, I've been working on a super exciting new project, which is building my ultimate dream music studio. I'm happy to say that it is complete. And in this video, I want to take a few minutes and give you a tour of the room so you can see what we've created. Let's check out the room. I also want to share with you a special opportunity where a small group of you can have the ability to fly in, stay on site here at my property, and work with me personally in this music studio, working on your production and mixing and mastering your songs. If that interests you, click on the link just below this video and learn more information about our music production retreats. This studio was built with one thing in mind: optimal acoustics. So this is what's called a non-environment control room. It's not a recording studio. It's not a creative studio where you see a bunch of synths and MIDI controllers. It's built for hardcore engineering of music and to have an incredible low-end frequency response, because I work mostly on bass music, hip hop, and pop. The goals of this room were to have the best acoustics possible in the space that we have, and we have a pretty optimal space. This studio was built inside of quite a large room. It was built with an isolation shell, so a room within a room to be able to block out outside sound and to prevent sound inside the room from bleeding out. The concept of a non-environment room is you have a hard front wall like the one you see behind me here with flush-mounted main monitors. That is the gold standard for acoustics. The reasoning, which I've gone into at length in other videos, I'll link those in this video's description as well. But the concept behind the hard front wall is it solves a ton of issues with acoustics right off the bat with the design. By putting the speakers in the wall, you eliminate SBIR reflections from the front wall behind the speakers. You also improve the stereo imaging because you're not having edge diffraction from the speaker cabinets. Without getting too into the weeds here on the details, the sound of a flush-mounted hard front wall is breathtaking. You've never heard music like you've heard it in a room with a hard front wall and flush-mounted speakers. It's just at a next level. Your ability to pinpoint things in the stereo image is really enhanced, and the bass performance of the speakers is next level because the speakers are given extra efficiency in the low end because they're only able to radiate sound forwards versus behind them. And so they project a lot more low end forwards than speakers that are freestanding in the room on stands. So the hard front wall is a major feature of the room, and it's a very complicated and costly thing to build. That's why you usually only ever see them in really high-end studios in LA and New York and London and things like that. So I'm really happy to have that, and it's performing way beyond my wildest expectations. The sound is breathtaking, like I said. Now, the rest of the non-environment room is basically designed to suck all the sound out of the room, except for a bit of scattering with slats on the back wall to give you a bit of live sound. Every other surface in this room, the side walls, the ceiling, and the back wall, are extremely heavily treated. I'm talking we have 1.5 to 3.5 feet of trapping using porous absorption on these surfaces. The back wall is the thickest for obvious reasons. All of the sound, especially the bass, gets funneled towards the back wall, and it's designed with a huge porous absorber array to be able to catch the bass. And what that results in is kind of like an RFZ, a reflection-free zone. That means that what you're hearing from the speakers is 100% true direct sound. And that also gives you an incredible clarity when it comes to what you're hearing and your ability to make mix decisions. Let's talk about the back wall for a sec. The back wall has slats on it. So there are slats that are made of wood. Some of them are vertical. You can see in the CNC Warp Academy logo panels, and some of them are horizontal. And they are built using a mathematical progression, and they're designed to be able to break up sound waves and scatter some of the mid and high frequencies back into the room So what happens is the monitor speakers are reflecting off of the hardwood floor. They hit the slats, and the slats break up that sound, and they scatter a nice even amount of that sound back into the room to give you a bit of live feel. Because otherwise, when you have a room that's this heavily treated, it can sound too acoustically dead, and that's not a good thing. So there's just the right amount of live sound coming back into the room to make it sound amazing. I want to take a sec and talk about the monitoring. Choosing the right monitor speakers was a really big decision. And if you've been watching my videos, you've seen that I published a pretty extensive video on why and how I chose these speakers. I'll link that for you below as well. And basically, the decision came down to I wanted large 3-way midfield monitors. I was done working on near fields. They just don't have the bass extension. And even if you have a bass managed system that has a subwoofer, I've used those before, and they just never performed the way that I wanted them to. I didn't have the amount of bass clarity and precision and detail that I really wanted as an engineer. It is possible with high-end, well-tuned systems to get that in a bass managed system, but what I decided to do was opt for everything in one enclosure. So the Neumann KH420s, they are, in my opinion, and the opinion of many other people that I've talked to, lots of colleagues and engineers, best in class. In their class, they're about $15,000, $16,000. They just are a step above anything else that I've heard and evaluated in this price range. And the beauty of them is their full range. They extend all the way down to 26 hertz, and that is low. That's definitely subwoofer territory. A lot of people have asked me, well, why don't you have subs in the room in addition to those? Well, it's a really simple answer. The hard front wall. Don't underestimate the impact of flush mounting monitors in a hard front wall. I don't need subs in this room. If they were freestanding on monitor stands, then yes, I might consider using a sub. But with them mounted in the wall and what's called baffle step, you basically get this large bass boost in the bottom end by the effect of the front wall. I've actually shelved these down. These are shelved down 2.5 dB using the shelving low end filters on the back of the monitors. So we've actually had to decrease the amount of bass these are putting out, not increase it with a subwoofer. And this room is still very bassy, as bassy as I would want it while still being as close to flat as I want it. The Neumann KH420s are very loud as well. I've had headroom issues with other monitors, and that does not exist with these. I would never want to turn these up anywhere close to as loud as they can go. When I'm mixing and mastering, I do monitor at different levels, and that's normal. And so they can go way beyond as loud as I would want them. And normally I mix with them actually quite quiet. I normally mix at 76 dB SPLC weighted. The imaging on these monitors and the sweet spot is also insane. We wanted to design this room as a teaching studio. So it's 16 feet wide. You can fit 12 people in this room behind me. And the dispersion pattern from the waveguides on the mids and the tweeters is enough to get a super wide sweet spot. That's enhanced by the fact that this is a non-environment room and the sidewalls are catching any reflections so that you're really getting a huge and accurate sweet spot on these monitors. Of course, it is the best in the mix position where I am now. That's the ideal sweet spot, but I've been really blown away by how wide the dispersion is on these monitors. And they really are just a joy to listen on, while also still being what you're looking for in a studio monitor. A really good judge of that is if you can load up a song, a mix that you've done, and I've loaded up at this point hundreds of mixes, references that I really have liked and compare my mixes to, some of my own music, some of my clients' music that I've worked on. And in almost every scenario, as soon as I've spooled up the mix, I've heard things on these monitors that I have not heard before, even when working on very high-end, high-resolution headphones and on other monitoring systems that are very good. These monitors have the ability to reveal things that need tweaking or correcting, and that's definitely what you look for in a monitor. I don't feel like they flatter the sound. They're not hyping any frequencies. They are accurate, but when you nail the mix, they let you know it, and they're a real joy to mix on and listen to. I want to talk about this studio in general and why a studio of this caliber matters. You know, I know a lot of you will be working in home-based DIY studios, bedroom studios, and maybe you haven't been in a room like this before and experienced what it sounds like. It actually makes engineering and producing your music a lot easier. Because when you're mixing in a room, and I've done this a lot myself, that has really compromised acoustics, if it's a small room like a bedroom or an office, or if you really just don't have full range monitors or you don't have enough acoustic treatment in your room, then it becomes very confusing and difficult to be able to make the right decision around your mix. You second guess yourself a lot because you make changes and then you can't tell if you're actually making an improvement, or you don't know where to look in your song. And the difference in working in a studio like this is because of the acoustics, because of the quality of the monitoring, because of the full range monitoring right down to 26 hertz, it's actually easily and immediately apparent to me what needs to be changed. It's obvious. You hear, oh, the kick drum needs to change by 0.5 dB. You can hear that in this room. And I've never heard that before in other studios that I've worked in. The changes that you need to make become obvious. And so that lets you work faster, it lets you work more effectively, and that is a huge part of the value of working in a room of this caliber. So if the concept of coming to work with me on your music in this room is something that interests you, then click the link below this video to get more information. I'd love to meet you, and I'd love to help you make your music reach its full potential. And if some of the stuff that I've talked about with this room feels like threads you want to pull on and you want to go a bit deeper into, I have a whole series of videos about the design and construction of this room, as well as some of the reasons why and how I chose these monitors. And I'll drop links below the video so you can deep dive into those subjects as well. Thanks for watching, happy music making, and I'll catch you on the next one.